I want to devote a good portion of the show today to discussing what's going on in Japan. There are a lot of issues there. We're not going to be CNN. We're not going to cover every issue of the earthquake and the disaster relief. There are great places to find resources there, but we can help point you towards some of those resources, and we can tell you a little bit about the technology. Most important, we can actually give you some on-the-scene reports from listeners in the Tech News Today audience who have been good enough to call and write us from Japan. I want to start off with the economic side of things, not because the human side isn't important. It is much more important. It's extremely important, but you can't ignore the effect. It's interesting to see, like, well, how is this going to affect business? And I was listening to the Economist podcast this morning, and they said, look, we always tend to overestimate the economic impact of natural disasters because they are so dramatic. It turns out usually they don't have nearly the effects that you think they're going to have. And there's an article out today in the San Jose Mercury News essentially saying that same thing. It looks like there's going to be a tightness in the flash memory market, but most of the industry seems to be okay. One of the lucky things is most industrial complexes are located in the south of Japan, so they weren't as impacted by the earthquake as the companies up in the north. The two most pressing concerns for the industry are damage to the transportation infrastructure and reliability of power, according to Dale Ford at IHS Supply. It could take as long as 2 months to resolve those problems. And I'm seeing that in a lot of places I'm reading. It's not so much that the factories can't work, or the factories are having a hard time getting back, but keeping them running and having the efficiencies of a constantly running factory is an issue because of the brownouts and the power issues. And also transportation. It's like you can make all the flash memory you want, but if you can't get it on a train and get it to a boat, and then get it shipped or get it to an airplane, it's going to be hard to sell it.
Yeah, and at first it feels a little bit morbid. Obviously, people are dealing with a massive, massive crisis on the other side of the world. But here in America, and I know we have listeners and viewers all over the world, it feels a little bit weird to be like, yeah, but will my gizmos continue to be on time? But it is important to take a moment and take a long view and recognize what's going to happen to the distribution logistics of the way not only our electronics, but all the imports that we get from Japan,
right,
and all the affected areas.
Yeah, it's definitely not the most important story coming out of Japan, but that doesn't mean that it should be ignored entirely. Some other really good stories coming out of Japan. Engadget reports today that AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, Dish Networks, Comcast, and Cox Communications have all announced plans under which free calls can be made to Japan, and as well as free text messages in a lot of cases between now and March 31st. So, for all the vitriol we were spewing at some of these companies earlier today, this is a good move, and I applaud them for it.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and look, this is one of those times when it's like there's nothing but good to be done. You do good for the people. You do good publicity for yourself. We know the folks over at Apple kept their Wi-Fi on. They were allowing people to come in and actually bunk down in the Apple stores. It's brief moments like this where to see everyone come together and put aside, the bottom line for a brief moment makes everyone feel good.
Yeah, that Apple story is really touching. Kevin Rose had some emails that he posted on his blog about, it became that scene from the movie where everyone gathers around the electronics store and watches the TV broadcast, except for the modern era. Everyone was in the Apple store watching the live stream on the laptops that they have set up there. Also, Facebook set up a Japan earthquake page for users to find information about disaster relief. Google has set up a crisis response project. We've talked about that in the past, although an interesting spin on that, Google is now encouraging people to take photos of the posters with people's names with their cell phones and send them to an address tohoku.anpi.google@Picasa Web. And once sent, the photo will be automatically uploaded to the Picasa Web album where people can view this and keep track of each other. NTT Docomo, Japan's largest wireless carrier, has set up a database where you can enter the cell phone number of a person to confirm his or her safety. Just a lot of coming together of businesses large and small in this effort to try to help people out.
Now, this is interesting. In the chat room, Stephen M. just tweeted or sent over to us that Verizon's offering free access to TV Japan through their Fios TV service.
So
and I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, that's great.
I think it's fascinating that we see how the interconnectedness of our society nowadays not only makes possible massive amounts of relief. We saw with the Red Cross donations, it's so super easy just to donate over your phone, but also in prevention of disaster. There was a recent tweet from Scientific American saying, and I forget the number, it was millions or billions of dollars were saved by proper planning and preparation for the tsunami. And in a case where time is of the essence. Once you have an earthquake and you need to get the word out that we expect a massive tsunami to happen and you got to get to high ground, then it matters that all of a sudden